Spike? That's all I know you by.
Yeah, my real name's Derek, but everybody here knows me as Spike. I've had that name since I was a year old. So
Really?
yeah,
Where'd that come from?
just as a kid, everybody at home has nicknames. So came from it. My dad called me Spike, and from an old Happy Days TV show, leather jacket, and it just stuck. Just had it ever since.
I mean, it's kind of your personality too.
Yeah, I guess so.
You have a spike to you. So, talk about your history, your health when as a kid and as an athlete, and then what led into you being in the military and like childhood. I know you played a lot of baseball, worked out a lot.
Yeah, it was always, I think a lot of us back then were always more active than kids are now. It's a different world. You don't see a kid riding a bike anymore. And for us, it was, lived in a neighborhood. And you really don't see even a lot of neighborhoods anymore.
You're right.
So, some of it is the sign of the times. But we'd go out and everybody was on a bike.
Yeah.
And we'd meet at the park and we'd play, and we weren't coming home until the lights were on.
Yeah.
And that was just every day. So we stayed active there, played baseball, of course, my whole life. Played a little bit of soccer in high school, just because I wanted to, be around my friends who played. And then played baseball through high school. Always worked out, started working out when I was 14, just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And, was just a gym rat. And actually, most people are, stealing their parents' cars to go to parties and stuff. I would steal my dad's car so I could go to the gym.
Makes sense.
The gym owner actually was one of my baseball coaches, so he never said anything.
Got it.
And and then just went through into the military, 4 years in the Marines, and enjoyed that. Did a lot of fun stuff there, and then just stayed active, always very active there, in the weight rooms. Got out, never really got away from the gym. Probably got into it even more. Went to school at Illinois State for a year, and then actually met a guy there in a gym that I'd thrown out of a bar in California 3 years before. So that's another funny story. And then we moved out to Phoenix in the Scottsdale area, Arizona State, and then moved here in 1999. And
wow.
Just been here ever since.
21 years.
Yeah, I've lived here longer than I did my hometown. So
that's cool.
Still don't have the accent,
Sometimes that's good. Yeah, sometimes that's good.
Yeah.
So once you started a family and all that, where did you gravitate here in Laurel, Mississippi for exercise? You have a gym or?
Yeah, I actually started, I think the first gym I went to was the Wellness Center. Went there for a little while, and then there was another gym up in North Laurel parking somewhere up there, but I don't even think it's up by the Sunflower. I don't think it's even there anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Then I went out to the gym that was out by the Sportsplex.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the name of that place. And I'd always had a dream to open my own.
Wow.
I mean, it was from the time I was a little kid.
Really?
And then, so just the way life takes us sometimes, opened up the Spike Sandlot, which was a baseball facility.
In Pendorf, right?
It was in Pendorf, yeah. And so then another buddy of mine, my workout partner from high school, he was in Ohio at the time. I said, hey, you need to get into this CrossFit thing. And so I kind of looked into it, and it was a little more intense than what we were doing at the time, so it was fun.
Yeah.
And then it just grew. And that's kind of the time when CrossFit was growing. It was new.
Like 07?
That would have been, yeah, it started probably 07. I got into it around 10.
Got it.
09 or 10.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I had the first CrossFit affiliate here.
Wow.
And it just grew, and it kept, and then what happened was it actually outgrew the baseball side.
Yeah.
And then I always knew I wanted to be more into athlete training. And CrossFit's good, don't get me wrong. I don't want to get in a whole argument over which is better for sports. You got CrossFit people think it's athletic training, and it's just not. It's not specialized sport training in any way, shape, or form. But it's good, and especially for people that's really not worked out, they get into it, and it's a great culture. They bring people in, and they make you part of their family, and it's great. You're held accountable. You got people waiting for you at the gym. If you don't know what you're doing, you have somebody there to walk you through it. So I think it's a really good for people that need that structure.
Yeah.
I just personally don't. I don't mind being by myself in a gym.
Mm-hmm.
I can be in the lifting platforms all by myself for hours. It doesn't bother me. I don't need somebody else's motivation.
Yeah.
But I did get into Olympic lifting and qualified for the World Finals 3 times. Took second in the country, and I have to see what year that was, probably around 15. And then last lift, we were about to qualify again and broke my broke the tibia right at the ankle. So then made a long recovery from that. 5 screws and a plate later. I ended up qualifying again for the World Finals after that. Went on to Nationals and took third there. And then at that point, it was just the gym was getting big enough. I was getting a lot of athletes. It was time to quit beating myself up and start putting time into them. So I think at one point, the most members we had at the gym I was working at was 173, I think. So it was big. It was in the summer. Summer was always busier because now I'm always with athletes. So now they filter in and out depending on their seasons. So we have a good steady 75 to 80. But the summers are bigger.
Is that mostly kids? What are the age?
Yeah, so I don't work with them under 13. Now we're working on some other programs, but I personally don't. I go from 13 up, and I've got from your middle school kid that's just trying to get into the gym, trying to figure out what he wants. He's starting to grow a little bit.
Puberty.
Guys, but yeah, exactly. And then it's nice too because the girls are able to be strong now and be feminine. And kind of like when I was in school, if you had a really good athlete, she was kind of looked down upon. There was a very bad stereotype, and there's a stigma. And now your athletic girls are kind of the popular girls.
Right.
And so if you've got a daughter at this time, or say, this is I've always said this is a really good time to have a little girl she can go out, and she can weigh 145, 150 pounds strong.
Yeah.
And that's normal now. When we were growing up, I think it was little skinny Kate Moss was the model that everybody and it was just so unhealthy.
Yeah.
I never understood it. It wasn't attractive to me. I always thought the muscle or the athletic girl was the attractive and the fun one. It had the good personality. It was healthy.
Yeah. Healthy mainly.
Healthy was the biggest thing. I had, when I was in Phoenix and even in California, had a lot of the guys, even the top pros. I don't want to drop all the different names, but there's a lot of top pros that are in big magazines. And so, my training partner actually is dead now. And it was so many drugs that was involved. And,
really?
a lot of them have lost body organs and things like that. Now there's just so many drugs, and they would get so dehydrated to get on stage. And I just never understood, they couldn't walk outside the gym and run a half a mile without dying. And I just didn't think that was the way it was supposed to go. So that's the other side of it, why I like athlete training more. If you could take a kid and teach him how to move better, and then he can go out to sport, because even sports do kind of, other than what's going on right now at this particular time, sports have always been the thing that everybody kind of draws to. Better sport, the better you are at sport, it seems like you're a little more popular, you're a little more confident.
Definitely.
Kind of way to go. If you saw the guy at the pool, there's a little, he had some pecs, he had some arms. You kind of, what was he doing? He didn't want to be a little skinny kid.
You're right.
Nobody wants to be the skinny kid now. Nothing against him, but it's just, that's a guy thing. That's how we're made. And, people will say, oh, people are just, self-centered that want to be in shape. You really don't know what that person's going through either. You don't know if they, beat a disease, or did they beat alcoholism? You don't know what their home life. That may be their only release.
Yeah.
There's days for me that I just don't know how to handle things other than to go to the gym, and that's my release.
It's a great outlet.
It's either that or blood pressure, drugs, and everything else, or alcohol that we know is an issue.
And home life. When you said that about kids,
you don't know what kids are going through.
You don't, but you give them an opportunity to exert yourself.
I tell them, you're not necessarily going to be the next Division I athlete.
Right.
Eventually, you're going to be a father, or a husband, or at least a boyfriend, something like that. And so, for us, my goal is to almost mentor some of them. And I'm hard on them, though. Really hard on them. But I love on them, too. And they know I'm fair. Like, I'm the same every day.
Yeah.
And
they need that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard being a father and all those things.
It is. And but I'm hard on the girls and I'm hard on the guys. Like
Yeah.
there's no,
In a constructive way, you're hard on them.
yeah, very good. But they know what I expect from them. And if I'm not hard on them, it means maybe I don't believe in them.
That's right.
So, I think the person that lets you just get away with anything, they really don't have your best interest in mind.
You're right.
And so for me, it's structure because when you go to a boss, I've been a boss, you come in late. I've had college kids that come in, I throw them out of the gym because they came in late.
Yeah.
You got to have discipline. There's set times that we do things.
Yeah. That teaches them a lot about life that they can take from.
Carries on because there's a handful of guys that are going to get paid at this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of them in here that are getting paid to play sports, and they're different. They're completely different than your normal human being.
It separates them from.
They're different. There's nothing about them that are the same. They're faster. They're stronger. They move better. They just have better coordination.
They're disciplined though.
Genetic. Yeah, and then they've got to, once they get to their top level, they got to have the discipline to put the work in because that's what separates them.
Yeah.
So once you get to your top athlete, the only thing that separates them is discipline and how bad do they want it to continue to work when nobody's around.
Yeah.
Because you get to see them on game day, but for a normal human being, a dad, every day's game day for him. So he has to have some type of discipline that hopefully we're instilling in that,
Yeah.
At a young age here.
Every day. So when you work with athletes, like one thing that I want to say before we get going, I met you when you had your gym in Ellisville, and I think I was there about 2 years.
Yeah.
And I came in one time, didn't have a family at the time, but I came in and I was dragging. I'd worked 21 hours and my feet were dragging the floor, and you were like, dude, pick up your feet. And that has stuck to me.
I just, when my little boy was, and I think this came from like my mom's dad, very disciplined, was very proud. And, he wouldn't leave the house if his hair wasn't combed.
That's
Shave
amazing.
before you leave. You look, and he said, you dress for the part that you want, not for the part that you have.
That's right.
You have to have discipline. And, my little boy, when he was learning how to walk, if he would drag his feet, I'd pop him. Not smack him, but just remind him to pick up your feet.
Yeah.
Don't walk and have your mouth open.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a mouth breather.
That's right.
It's just discipline. Now, maybe that's hard. I don't know, but my kids are turning out okay. I'm pretty proud of, straight A's on what they're doing. So
Yeah. And Brady's big into sports, and Allie's.
Both kids are cheerleaders and they play baseball.
Yeah.
And they don't get in trouble and they get straight A's, and they know that if they're great at ball, the sports go away.
They earn it.
Their sports aren't first for me, and everybody thinks that I'm this big only sports, win at all costs, and I'm pretty much exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
I used to run, and I had for about 5 or 6 years a wood bat league that was 9 through 12-year-olds. It's the only one in the state,
Yeah.
and we kept score every game. We had umpires, but we didn't keep records because the goal of that was to develop these kids for the next level. Because nobody really cares what you do if you're 12 years old. Nobody, and people misconstrue that these kids are going to be super athletes at 9, 10 years old.
You're right.
The fact is, they're just kids. Let them develop. Let them develop into something. Let them find something that they're interested in.
But build a foundation.
Build a foundation. If they don't have the foundation, they're never going to be great.
Yep.
And that will weed them out too. And you see them at a high school level. Man, I remember that kid was hitting this or was throwing this. And he was just coddled almost just because he was good at 10 years old.
And that destroyed him.
And it just destroyed him. He has no discipline. You see him throwing bats. You see him, throwing their glove. If my kid throws his glove, my God, I'm coming out of the stands. There's just no sense in it because it doesn't carry over to life.
You're right.
He knows that once you hit the white lines, you run.
Yeah.
You never walk. I never will allow him to walk on the field. And it's just discipline. It's not being hard, and it's not the military. It's just you got to have some standards in life or some principles.
Morals.
People say, what's the difference between a principle and a belief? And most people don't know. And to me, a belief can be shaken in life, but a principle can't. A principle does not change over time.
You're right. Solid.
And so if you have a handful of principles, it doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. My gosh, I've made so many just, bad decisions, moral decisions, everything. But I have a handful of principles that I just live by, and I will instill those in my kids. And then when they have their kids, if they don't like those principles, well, then I'll let them instill their own. But until then, we're going to instill good, red-blooded American principles.
Yeah.
You don't talk back to your mom. You don't hit a girl. I mean, and that's one of the biggest things. My kids, Brady gets upset because he knows he can never hit his sister. It doesn't matter what she does. She's just not allowed to. I mean,
Yeah.
if she smacks him in the head, I'm going to get on her, but you better not touch her.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And that's how it is in our family. And it's, he wasn't allowed to play rough with his mom. I just don't allow it. I just don't think there's a place for it.
That's amazing, the respect that you teach and the way that translates into life, everything you've done.
It does. So far it's proved right. But I mean, when you look at some of these kids that are running around out here, and the problem is, I spoke to ninth grade boys almost every last few years at Laurel.
Yeah.
Bay Springs. I spoke to the whole school at Bay Springs. And the biggest thing is kids are good. They really are.
They're made good.
They're made good. We screw them up.
As parents,
They are complete products of their environment. And
Yeah.
if you can get some of these kids and give them a good environment, you'd be really surprised what they turn out to be. 'Cause they're not what you think.
Yep.
And that's what I try to explain. Brady is you don't know what their environment's like. That doesn't make when the kids ask me before, why do you always give homeless people $2? Like, what's $2 to you?
Yeah.
I say it's not yours. And do you think that when they were a little kid that they raised their hands that they wanted to be homeless? Like, you don't know the circumstances. Now, maybe they brought that on themselves. Maybe outside, but it's not yours to judge them.
You're right.
Who cares?
It's your job to love them and
Our job
get
is
them.
to love people and to be fair, to have some empathy, but to have reality too. I had a conversation with one of my pitchers. He pitches for the Phillies, and that was his big thing too. Is where's the empathy, but the reality? From home.
Yeah.
So we have empathy for these kids, but we don't have any discipline. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
To me, and I mean, I know nobody's going to ask me to write a parenting book. I mean, it's just not going to. They probably don't believe in, like I said, correcting a kid as he's learning how to walk. Don't drag your feet.
Or that has lifelong,
Yeah.
even mouth breathing.
I hate mouth breathing.
I see grown people.
There's just, you can't respect. I mean, I
No.
never have.
You can respect them, but their
Yeah.
health's bad, their ability to breathe, even athletes on the field.
Well, and my guys, when we're conditioned, they're not allowed to take a knee. They're not allowed to put their hands on their knees. They're allowed to stand up.
Yeah.
Because I want the mental aspect that everybody on that field is tired, but you're not going to show it. You're going to mentally defeat them.
Yep.
And if they think that, man, no matter what I do, this is the fourth quarter and this guy's still standing tall, well, that's practice. That's not being allowed to look tired.
And that translates into the work field.
Like everything. Yeah, absolutely. So when your boss is on you and I'm the world's worst with facial expressions, you just got to suck them up, because if you don't like it, then leave.
That's it.
Or suck it up. You just get two choices.
Yeah, don't complain and run your
There's
mouth.
no reason. My goal's to be a great employee that, once I leave somewhere, somebody can now say, man, I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then you should have left earlier.
You're right.
You didn't bring anything to the table.
You quit a long time before.
Yeah.
So when you look at these athletes, these kids, especially younger kids, and how they follow you through your program because you have a great loyal following and they see improvements, what impact do you see on their nutrition or their family, their parents' influence on them?
Yeah, so I think the parent influence is huge. And we'll actually sometimes get the young kids that start doing well, they want to start eating better.
Really?
And they'll take it home.
That's awesome.
And so when we get those stories, that happens, and a parent will call me and say, hey, how do I start eating better? Because he doesn't want to eat the stuff, or she doesn't want to eat the stuff.
That's amazing.
I also have people call, can you talk to my daughter about eating? Because she's wanting to not eat. She thinks she needs to be skinny. Well, the problem is an athlete eats.
Yeah.
And so the other nice thing is having them around other very, very strong, high-level athletes. And, like
Role models.
Yeah, absolutely. So like probably one of my strongest female role models that is like a daughter to me is Madison Rayner. She's a leadoff hitter at Southern Miss. She's strong.
Yeah.
And she's fast, but she's humble.
That's
and
amazing.
She never stops working. And she always takes time to talk to the young ones. And they'll come up and, hey, is that Madison Rayner from Southern? And I'm like, yeah, just say hello to her. Go, no. And then I'm like, Madison, come here. And then they find out she's just totally down to earth.
Yeah.
And then Matt, and she's got this huge, just they love her to death. But we have more than she just sticks out, because she's just so special. But yeah, at home, you see it, and you hate it. And I'll ask some of the kids, I don't tell them they need to lose weight because that's a negative way to look at it. But we have to get their playing weight correct. And that's where I like sports, because sports really does not allow for an opinion. You can either play or you can't.
Yeah.
You're either good or you can't. I mean, if you throw 75 miles an hour, you're only going to play so long.
That's right.
It's just a fact. If you throw 100, you're going to play longer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are out there and if you run a 40 and it's a 6.0, you're not going to play very long. I mean, it weeds it out, and then you get the guy that runs a 4.3, he's going to have more opportunities than you are. You don't get to be angry about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're talking about the family part of it, the family, they help with diet if they know how. Or if they're just, let's go to McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
It's just, and you can see the kids, once they start performing better, you don't have to say anything to them. They come to you. All right, now how do I dial this in? Because nutrition's probably, if I say 85% of it, because you can't train hard without good nutrition.
That's right.
And you can't recover without nutrition. You don't feel good without good nutrition. You can't train as long.
Yeah.
As hard. Really nutrition, as I get older, realize how important it is. So it's not always been important to me.
Yeah, the main reason I had that question is because kids don't have as we get older, we have immediate consequences, feels like. But when I was a kid and playing football, I could eat that cheeseburger and still roll, but.
Yeah, and so you try to get them into habits.
Yeah.
And once they buy into the belief, man, that's just, Hope he doesn't eat like that, does he? I'm like, no. Or you'll see Keon Howard come through and I think he lost 15 or 20 pounds, just lean. He looks, he's the starting quarterback down at Tulane now.
Yeah.
And he said, Swag, he'd come to the house and he would just sit and talk nutrition. And it almost get old because I want to talk about something else, but he just will not get off of it because he knew he had to get faster.
Yeah.
And that was the only way to do it. And every time he'd come in, we'd talk about this. We'd get recipes for this. But and then you get the younger ones, man, how does he look like that? I'm like, he eats right. It's not all training.
Wow.
He eats right. So I think that having them around all these other athletes is good, because they respect the older ones that are a little more serious. They don't take their time. But the other side of it, these kids all are competitive at some level, even if it's with each other. So they're not in here screwing around.
Yeah. You got a great culture that you built.
Yeah, that's a perfect word. It's a culture. Like when you come in, and I tell parents, look, I'm not going to be easy on them. Are you sure this is what you want to do? But you have 30 days to have a result. If we don't get something better in 30 days, then you didn't put in the work, or I didn't click with you. But either way, we need to part ways because it's too expensive and it's too hard to not get a result.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very results orientated. And in the end, if you're not a results orientated person, what are you doing?
That's parenting. That's living life. That's being a coach.
That's everything there is. If you're not looking for a result, then what are you doing?
Yeah, you're wondering the whole time, basically.
There's nothing. I said there's not a place for you, but you can't put anything back into the world.
That's right.
By just being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not a flower on the sidewalk.
No. They get cut.
Yep.
The grass grows and it gets cut. But at least it's doing something.
You're right.
It's making something green.
You're right. Yeah.
But if you're not at least growing somehow, then what are you doing? And you don't feel good about that either.
Yeah.
That's the fact that people have to be, when they're making goals, even if it's small goals. For some people, it's make your bed every morning. Just make your bed for 21 straight days and see how you feel. It sounds stupid, but it's not.
It's a win.
It's a win. Because sometimes when you're in the dumps, I've been there before. You go through a bad divorce and a bad job and just all kinds of stuff that life throws at you. Sometimes you just need a win.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the simplest thing, like make my bed for 21 straight days. It doesn't have to be made good.
Yeah, just done.
I just need a win. Like you said, just give me a win and I'll start feeling a little bit better and we'll go from there.
So do you see kids, parents involved? Like, do they exercise or do they do?
The ones that do is the athletic or the exercising parents.
Yeah.
It seems like the kids, I mean, there's a direct correlation.
Okay.
I mean, my kids only know the gym.
Yeah. They lived in the gym
They grew up in the gym and they knew when it was time to train that they sat on the side.
Yeah.
And they counted lifts and they knew what numbers. And they didn't bother you.
They help. I saw Brady load weights for
They'll
you.
load weights. They'll call numbers off. My kids can count kilos. My last meet, Brady actually coached me in Pensacola. He went to the table, called the numbers off. And then it was funny because we've got some videotape from it, and they're like, who is this little kid at the table? Does he even know how to count kilos? They're like, oh, yeah, it's Spike's coach. They didn't know him as Spike's kid at that time.
It was his coach.
That was his coach, and he loved it.
Yeah.
You know, because he was a part of something. You know, and I won my class that day, and so he felt like he got to win. You know, and then one of our other buddies down there, he's like, man, count my numbers for me. Brady's like, all right. So he was calling them off. He won. So Brady's like, man, I got 2 wins in a day. So, of course, they want to be around that, too.
Of course.
You know, they just,
it's purpose.
It's a winning culture. Like you said, it's a purpose. It's a culture. You know, when dads are dropping them off, hey, you're in here. I'll be back. I'm going to the other gym. They know there is no time to be messing around. Dad's at his gym. Mom's at her aerobics class.
Yeah.
Well, and then the diet helps, too. Because now mom and dad is eating a little better.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. I feel bad because you do have those kids that go home and the parents are like, just wanted them at the gym so they were out of the way.
Yeah.
And then, to me, that's sad because this kid is doing so much. Just give him go walk.
Yeah.
Do something so that the kid sees that you're involved in him, and the kid blows up. It's crazy how the kids, and I see it here when they're, you know, they're the parent that'll walk in. How's he doing? Is he doing well? Yeah, man, he did this. Man, I'm so proud of him. And the kid sees it.
Yeah, he feels it.
I don't know of any that says, man, I want my dad or my mom not to be proud of me.
Yeah, they
I
know.
screw up really bad.
Yeah.
Or you'll get the kids in here and the parents are all over, and I'm like, did you think your kid woke up this morning and said, I want to suck?
Yeah.
I mean, they want to be good. They're working at this. They're just struggling, but it's not your place to beat them up.
In some ways, you parent up. That you have to parent parents many times.
And I've had questions. Should I hold my kid back at school? Man, I don't know. That's way over my head.
Yeah.
I'm not a counselor. He's called a school counselor. I'm not getting into that conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get the craziest questions. I get a lot of questions too. Hey, my kid's grades are dropping. Can you explain to him? I'm like, well, if his grades are dropping, he's leaving here.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm like, if his grades are dropping, he needs to spend time in school. We'll get him a tutor. He doesn't need to be at the gym. And they're just like, are you being serious? I'm like, yeah, I will throw him out. He's got a week. I need to see some type of exam or something. He's out.
Yeah. That's accountability.
Well, it's accountability. I expect that out of my own personal kids.
Yeah.
So I can't hold another person's kids at a different level. You know, it's across the board. I throw my own kid out of the gym.
Yeah.
He didn't want to give me an effort. Well, he had school on his mind, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
don't come in and give me 75% and tell me it was 100.
Yeah.
Go blow smoke up somebody else's rear end. And I sent him out. He went to the car, got his homework done, got his mind right, and he came back in. But, you know, that was another situation that for me is if you're not going to bring it, just don't come.
Now, that's a community of a father in the community, really. And
Yeah, I mean, we hope, and that's what we hope we're developing these kids too, that realize, hey, it doesn't really matter what we do as long as we're going to go for it.
yeah,
We don't have to be athletes, but we're going to bring it.
and that gives each kid a place.
Yeah, and I've got a couple kids here that just will never be athletes.
Yeah, right.
They will never see the field. They're probably maybe never make a varsity team, you know. But man, they bring it every day, and I give them the same amount of coaching that I give, you know, your NFL guy or your pro baseball, because he's giving me his effort, I'm going to give him mine. What he does with it is he grows.
Yeah.
I don't care if he plays sports. He's giving you effort. How can you not love a kid that just gives you everything they have? Because how do you know he's not going to go out and own a company?
Yeah.
You know, and you need
You're right.
a job, or your kid needs a job.
Yeah.
Or he brings 100 new jobs to your community. Now there's 100 families that have houses. I mean, so I try to look at a bigger picture than athletics, even though I love the athletic training side of it.
But you use it as a tool.
It is just simply a tool to try to reach people, kids, and help them. Because, you know, I get in this conversation with one of Brady's coaches who I really, really, really respect. And I said, man, I need you to mentor him when I'm not around. And he just kind of looked at me. I said, you don't understand. I can't be there all the time.
That's right.
And he may never play ball at a high level, but he's going to be a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And you have those kind of mentoring skills that I respect. that you don't get a lot of from these coaches. And I won't say in Jones County, I'm saying in general.
Around
I've seen it all the time.
Yeah, across the nation.
You know, throughout the entire nation, yeah. These guys are fighting on the field and they don't know how. I mean, arguing with umpires over a 9-year-old game.
You're right.
Are you kidding me?
But that happens so much. It's notorious.
All the time, you know, and so I want coaches around my kid that I can trust that one have his best interest, one that's not going to be easy on him,
Yeah.
but are going to mentor him into a young man. And so, I mean, I think if that's what I want for my kid, I should do that. And there's times I've really failed at it, you know, and that's what I've actually apologized to kids. Like, man, I just didn't have it today. And
that teaches a lot, though.
It's just not fair, you know.
You're human.
Yeah, but you know, but I don't think that. I think we should be held at a better or a higher standard than a kid.
I agree.
You know, if he's going to bring it, I need to bring it.
Yeah.
Or I need to not use certain language towards him or around him or something like that. And it's one of those things, and I've apologized to him for it.
But that teaches
that they know
humbleness,
passion, and humbleness. Hopefully, you know, not that I'm just a dick.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what, man, he's thinking about things other than just what he's doing now.
Yeah. And what I've noticed is you got a thread of, you know, compassion and humbleness, but you also are striving for excellence.
Mm-hmm.
But what I see a lot is kids are not going for perfection. You haven't asked for perfection. You've not, talked about it. It's mostly excellence. And then if you fail, you get back up and you learn from it. And I've noticed you learn from.
And I mean, I kid around, and you know, other people have said this too. It's not like I coined the phrase, but I've not always won. You know, I've never lost. I just either run out of time.
Yeah.
To keep playing.
Yeah.
You know, or I either won or I learned.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, and I've lost a ton. You know, there was a lot of times on a limit platform, I just could not break the top three, could not break it. And it was just so frustrating. And I'd come back in and I'd put everybody's name on the board that beat me. You know, my first nationals, I got, I think, 6th or 8th. And I put their numbers on the board and I looked at them every day for 364 days.
Yeah.
I think I was 41 at the time. And then I came back, I took 2nd the next year. So I knew who I wanted to beat and I beat them all.
Yeah.
But it was just a goal for me. You know?
But even when you had your own gym there in Ellisville, I got to witness some of that, and there was kids a part of that, and they got to watch, like, who's those names? What are those numbers?
Yeah, they always have to say, why do you always, before every lift, you look at that number? I'm like, because that's the guys that beat me. They're not going to beat me again. If they do, they're going to have to outwork me this whole year.
Yeah.
And if they do, then I'm going to put their name on the board again, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Until I just don't have it in me. And until I don't have that 100%. I knew I didn't have it anymore. It was just, It was time to put 100% into something else.
Gotcha. Well, it's good that it translated well because.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I said, if we had 176 at one time, I don't know how many kids we coached through here, but now I've coached like, you know, I actually have kids I've coached. I have kids now.
Wow.
You know, and I actually had a kid it goes back to it was like a 14-year-old game, and long story short, they told me we were going to have to forfeit because we didn't have enough players, but we did. We had 7, and they said, you know, you have to forfeit. I said, oh no, I got enough. I got to take 2 outs, but you know what? I'm not forfeiting. We're here. We're going to play. You're going to have to beat me on the field. I'm not going to just quit. And the whole team was like, you really think we can win? I said, we're going to win by 10. We're going to 10-run rule these guys tonight.
Wow.
No doubt. I took the one kid that was supposed to pitch, and I did it probably out of anger and, you know, and competitiveness. And I put my top guy out there, and I said, if they score 100 on you, you're not coming out of the game. So you better find your competitive edge tonight because I got mine, and I want to win this by over 10 runs. And he said, let's go. And he said, I want the ball. And those are the kids you look for when you tell them, you're on your own out here.
Yeah.
I'm not coming out here. I'm not going to visit the mound. You better go because you're the best I got, and I'm going to win or lose with you. And then everybody else just stepped up. So the long story to that is kids showed up and walked in the gym a couple of years ago, and he said, you know, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, I don't. He said, man, I'm well now. I make $100,000 and I got a kid on the way. He said, I'll never forget the time you told us that it's not okay to quit, that they got to beat you. So what are you talking about? He said, I remember when we played this game, and he went through the whole game. He said, we won by 14 that night. I said, yeah, we did. He's like, you said it was okay to it was okay to lose. It was never okay to quit.
Wow.
And every time I wanted to quit school or something, I just realized it wasn't okay to quit, but it was okay to lose as long as I gave everything I have. So I've never gotten on a team that gave me everything they had that lost.
Yeah.
I just think we ran out of time.
Yeah. Man, but you live by that example. You can clearly see that. And that helps because you see a lot of parents, and that's mainly, a lot of why I wanted to come talk to you is because a lot of parents are going to talk and talk and talk,
Yep.
but they're sitting behind 40 pounds of overweight, or they're sitting behind
they want their kids to
computer.
do something that they either weren't,
or
there's so many parents that live their lives through their kids, and it's not fair to the kid either.
No, it ruins the kid.
It ruins them. If my kid doesn't want to play sports tomorrow, I've always told him I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I've already had mine. But it is hard to sit there in the stands or to have a parent come up, and why are you doing this? Probably for the same reason you did.
They need that. You're right.
The guy asked me one time, just scream at his kid about hitting a curveball. Well, I made him get in the cage. Just embarrassed him. He said, well, wow, is it that hard? I said, if it wasn't hard, they wouldn't throw him. It's very hard.
Yeah.
You've never been an athlete. You've never been a ball player, and now you expect your kid to do these just amazing things, and he's trying.
Yeah.
Why don't you just love the kid?
At least he's swinging,
At least he's there.
Yeah.
He's giving you effort, and the game's hard.
It is.
But you're so right. I mean, you sit with a guy that, hasn't walked around the block, and you feel bad for him too.
Yeah.
Because for something happened to him, that maybe he was an athlete, he had an injury, maybe he's got a back injury. But the thing is, even if you have an injury, sitting is the worst thing you can do.
But that's what happens,
And that's exactly what happens. Or they want to get on, certain medications, and medications isn't always the fix. Do I think that there's reasons for medications? Yeah, I do.
But they're tools, not
They're
dependencies.
tools, yeah. I don't think they're the crutch or the fix.
Yeah.
I think the fix is staying mobile.
But what I really, and I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
But what's really critical that I love about you and what you do with kids and parents, and especially your own kids, is you lead by example.
Yeah.
But what everybody needs to get out of this and this time is, you see both sides. You're a coach. You see
Right.
kids. You watch them develop, and you also do relations with their parents. And people want to coach from the stands, or they get in that situation. Well, why didn't you do this? And why ain't you done this? And it's like you educate people, and people need to hear a coach say, you didn't put in the work, or we didn't click, or maybe this ain't for your kid. Maybe your kid needs to play piano.
Mm-hmm.
But don't mean he don't need to still exercise.
Right. He still needs to stay mobile. I mean, get on a bicycle.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw anybody riding a bicycle?
It don't happen. You're right.
I mean, it's a different world, but they can still walk. They can still go to the park.
Yeah.
They can still go do something. Play kickball.
Yeah. But what's critical
Swim.
is you said it, and it was like light bulb going off. They put them in the gym, or they put them outside, or they give them a computer or a game, and
Just so they don't have to deal with them.
yeah.
I mean, get involved.
And
You
that's
feel better,
critical.
too.
Yeah, I mean, at least walk with them after they exercise or something to
Right.
cool down.
I never understood having kids and not being involved. And why did you have kids? It wasn't just, you don't just go to school, get a job, have a kid. That's not life cycle.
You're right.
I mean, a life cycle to me isn't, and I had a lot of fun before I had my kids. It was wild, around the world twice.
Yeah.
But when I had my kids, that was it. I was ready for them.
And you were fully invested.
That's the one thing I can say. I've given up a lot of things for my kids that I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah.
But they're products of us.
You're right.
And I truly believe that a kid at heart is good. Nobody will tell me that they're not. I just think they're products of their environment.
But you still lived your life the best you could,
Yeah.
with including your kids.
Yeah, they were always with me.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen my kids at the gym.
You're right.
I've seen them at the fields, or if I'm at the mall, my kids are always right next to me. I'm almost never not have them. As they were younger, obviously they're older now and got their own lives started.
Yeah.
15, 16 years old. But when they were little, they were rugrats. I would dress them in the wrong clothes and
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
A single dad, I didn't know what I was doing.
But I mean, you made it work
Yeah, I mean, I
for,
put Allie's hair in a zip tie because I didn't know how to put a hair tie up, you know. So, and she was okay with it. She grew up to be a little bit of a tomboy. She doesn't hate me for it now. So,
yeah, I mean, you definitely appreciate that.
yeah,
But she's tough and she's got a
she's
great,
hard-headed, and God, sometimes I wish she wasn't so hard-headed because we argue like we're brothers and sisters. But that's good. We're just alike, and that's the problem. She'll
Yeah.
laugh. We're just too much alike, Dad. You know, and that it is. But I've told her since the very beginning of life that, you know, you're gonna be special. You were meant to be special. You're meant to change lives.
yeah, you're
If
right.
you're not affecting lives, then I just don't know what you're doing. But I try to tell all these kids that you have the ability. If you tell me you can't do something, you're right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. But somebody has to do it. And that's what I've always said. You know, somebody has to be the first woman president. Somebody had to be the first person on the moon. Somebody had to be the first female on the Supreme Court. Somebody's going to cure cancer. Somebody had to start Amazon. Somebody's
Yep.
got to do it. If you tell me why it's not you, then you're right.
Yeah. But you see the potential in everybody.
I think everybody has potential. We just got to draw it out of them. Give them a reason to not, you know what, go fail.
Yeah.
Please go fail. Fail a bunch.
Really.
You only got to succeed once.
That's it.
Nobody's going to remember the times you screwed it up. And if they
amazing.
do, they're not, what do you care? They're
You're
not
right.
doing anything with their life.
That's it.
The people that remember when you screwed up, they're not doing anything with their life. Now, the guy that comes, man, you remember when you did this great thing? That's who you want around,
You're right. Yeah.
you know,
Or that kid and
or that kid. Yeah, absolutely.
that come back. I mean, that means that's worth.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories. That kid was pretty special. He threw the ball hard.
Yeah.
He did some good things, but now he's a family man.
Mm-hmm.
He's not making money in sports.
But it translated.
Absolutely, 100%.
And that's a great part about
Well, that's
sports.
a good feeling as a coach. You know, a lot of these coaches want the respect of the name coach. I don't let them call me coach. 'Cause I don't want to be just a coach. I just want to be Spike that hopefully influenced you where somebody else did, is what I should say. Because there's a lot of these guys that got great parents, don't get me wrong.
You're right.
And they're the biggest influence in these kids' lives. But maybe that I can fill a spot that maybe just missed. Or for that kid that doesn't have a good influence. And I remember Spike used to kick me in the rear end every day and just wouldn't let me quit.
Yeah.
And he said I could do it. Now I did it.
Yeah.
So who knows where we fit into kids' lives. But if we don't do something about it, we're not going to fit into anybody's.
You're right. But your approach is not dictatorship. It's
No, absolutely. No, I tell them all the time, if you don't understand what we're doing, you need to tell me.
Yeah.
My job is to help you understand what we're doing. And if it doesn't fit into your program, then we're going to change it. There's no right answer.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones and there's some better ones, but there's no one right one. And I'm not above learning every day. I mean, I'm in college now because I want to learn more. You know, if you think that you know it all, then that's going to be your biggest downfall. But somebody always knows something more that you don't.
You're right. Well, I appreciate you doing
Yeah,
this with me,
absolutely.
man.
Thanks for having me.
That's incredible that to hear all that and to share that with people. I really want parents to hear it first and give them some insight into what it's like to have a coach, and also teach them to treat the coaches and the children a little different
Yeah.
and have a better approach.
It's okay to be hard on the kids if you love on them, though.
Yeah.
You got to know that
The
you love
balance.
them. If you don't have a good balance, I mean, because I'm the first one to laugh with them, the first one to roll on them too.
Yeah.
You know, they know.
And that builds, for the guys, it builds a brotherhood, but for the girls, it builds a.
Man, he was on it today, wasn't he?
Mhm.
That's the funny one. Spike was on it today.
But it translates so well, even
Absolutely.
not
I
as
think it does.
not even an athlete.
No, as a person.
Yeah.
You know, you go into these schools and stuff, and some of these kids there's just no discipline.
Yeah.
No discipline. Doesn't
But-
mean you're hard on them. Doesn't mean you're just straightforward discipline. There's right and there's wrong. And it doesn't matter where you live and where you come from and what your parents do. There's right and there's wrong. There's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
And there's no boundaries on that. You're either good or you're bad.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great ending, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man, for
All
having me.
right.